Thanks for tuning in once again to the Silver Bullet Report on the Silver Bullet channel. I'm Greg DePalma, and he is Steve Faraci, and thanks for tuning in once again. Steve, how's everything going down in sunny South Florida?
Going good, Greg. Good to be here again. How about North Carolina? You guys warming up at all
And
yet?
weird. I mean, the weather, you can go from 70 degrees in the daytime to like 40 at night. And it's really tough when you're trying to sleep because you have to
Yeah,
keep the windows open because it's too warm. But then by the time you wake up in the morning, you're shivering because it's 45 degrees and
right.
you got the windows open. But that's okay. I like the seasons. It's a great part of the country, Asheville, North Carolina area. I know you've been to this part of the country as well. So it's a nice part of the country, but South Florida, it's the place to be. Everybody wants to be in Florida nowadays.
I mean, real estate is booming. Half my neighborhood's up for sale. I mean, houses last maybe 2, 3 days on the market. And they sell for 50 grand over ask. It's crazy.
Yeah, well, that's and now the economy. It's funny because I know on our first show, our introductory show, we were talking about a lot of the things that we wanted to discuss on the channel to try to get everybody ready for the eventual, I don't want to say collapse, but you're gonna have to
Downturn.
protect yourself with the economy. Let's just put it that way. And yet, if you take a look at what's going on online and in the news, hey, we're about to hit a boom. An economic boom is coming. I can understand that. And again, I'm not the economic expert you are, but from my point of view, and everybody out there that's in my shoes, I guess we can understand it because we're coming out of the pandemic and there's a lot of new jobs now that are being created. But that's got to be temporary, though, right?
Yeah, there's actually a very good reason for that, but I just want to address the jobs being created. Is obviously people going back to work. Number one, right?
Yeah, there you
But
go.
number two, I want to throw out, this is an alarming statistic, is the new jobless claims. These are people that were working last week and aren't this week and have to file for unemployment.
Okay.
Every week we're getting between 700,000 and 800,000, almost a million, new jobless claims every week. So that number of new jobs pales in comparison. You know what I mean? We're at a net loss every week, is what I'm trying to get at here.
Okay.
So don't let that fool you. That, oh yeah, new jobs. People are going back to work. They are to some degree, but the jobs that the new jobless claims, people that aren't working anymore, far exceeds that. So that's the important statistic to look at, I think, or
Okay.
the combination of the two at least.
So when you hear the positive news, to me, I would look at it as, okay, I'm not going to rest on those positive news stories and like it that's going to again last forever, but that's this should be a really good time to use it as a way to now, hey, let me use some of that extra money that I'm going to make over the next few months to reinvest for the future, because the
Mm-hmm.
future is really what counts. And that's what we're doing here on this channel, is to try to look at the future and keep an eye on the fact that things are not going to be as rosy as they are right now, and they can get pretty bad. And so this is the perfect time to invest in the future, correct?
Absolutely. Getting back to the original thing, yeah, what happens is usually before an inflationary period or a hyperinflationary period, there's always a period of time where things look rosy again, right? We're on the way back to prosperity. It's actually, Jim Rickards refers to it as money illusion. I guess that's the term for it.
Okay.
So the money printing that's going to eventually cause the inflation or hyperinflation has kicked in tremendously, right? Last year, we printed 40% of all dollars ever created was done in the last 12 months. Think about that for a minute. Since the early 1900s, every dollar that's ever been created, 40% of those were created last year. That's insane. So now we have all this money waiting to cause inflation, right? So what happens is now what the Fed is going for, and what we need to see, is money velocity. You can print all the money you want. If people aren't moving it through the economy, creating GDP and so forth, with no money velocity, it really doesn't mean a whole lot,
Okay.
right?
All right.
So wouldn't that kind of make sense, that that's part of what the stimulus is about? There's no better way to get money velocity than to print money and get it into the hands of the people
Yes.
directly,
Yes.
because printed money directly to the people reacts differently than printed money going to institutions and QE.
That makes sense.
So they're artificially going to stimulate some money velocity now with this I mean, you can call it stimulus money, but it's going to what looks like it's going to eventually be universal basic income is what everyone thinks it's going to turn into, which is a monthly check in that amount. So yes, we are going to see a boom. This is very predictable. Happens every time. It's called money illusion. It's what you see just before the party really starts.
Okay.
According to Jim Rickards and Mike Maloney, they've actually discussed that in the Hidden Secrets of Money series.
Okay.
At good length. So it makes sense. I mean, I expected this at some point.
Okay. All right. Well, the main topic we want to discuss today on the show is gold versus Bitcoin. Is that correct?
Sure. I mean, we can tackle anything, but that's right now that's a hot topic, and everyone's all heated up about it. It's almost there with the left-right, argument. So yeah, let's cover that today a little bit. Okay. We'll have several shows about this because this is a topic that requires a lot of back and forth. But
this will have its own section in time on our channel. Yes, the Bitcoin gold versus Bitcoin kind of deal. So, because again, for someone like me, Bitcoin, there's a lot of people out there that, and I know my brother invested heavily in Bitcoin in the beginning.
Did he?
Now, I don't have active communication with my brother, but my father has explained to me that he invested early, so he's in a good position. But what about people out there that are either trying to invest in Bitcoin or have invested in Bitcoin? Is that something that, I mean, how much more can this continue? And what is the dynamic Bitcoin versus gold all about? Because I know this is a very important competition. Would you call it?
I wouldn't call it that. Some might call it that, and that's what we're about to discuss. But first, let me just clear this up with a disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Neither Greg or myself are licensed financial advisors. This is just for informational purposes only, and to express mine and Greg's opinion on the matter. This is not financial advice at all. So, what was the original question?
Well, basically, when we're taking a look at Bitcoin, for anybody that is thinking about either investing in it or they're thinking, wow, like, hey, I hear that Greg's brother invested in it and look at how much money right now he probably has. If because where was Bitcoin? Let's start at the beginning. Where was Bitcoin in the beginning compared to where it is now on the market?
Right. Well, when it came out, I believe it was 2009 was the first you'd ever heard of Bitcoin, right? So just to rewind it just a little bit,
okay.
The background of cryptocurrencies, there was an NSA white paper in 1998, exactly almost 10 years before they came out with the first cryptocurrency, that kind of described almost Bitcoin, right? Or the blockchain or any kind of altcoin. So I find that kind of interesting that, that idea was not really even new at that time. It was at least a decade old, according to this white paper. So, I found that a little interesting, to say the least. So moving forward, Bitcoin came out, and Greg, quite honestly, until the last 3 years or so, there's been a couple spikes, but until recently, it wasn't. Here's the problem with Bitcoin. Up till now, it's very volatile. It tends to go up just as much as it goes down. You know what I mean? In equal amounts. So one of the big discussions or debates is, let's say Bitcoin versus gold is it a stable form of investment, right? My view is I'll compare Bitcoin to mining stocks because they have that same volatility. You can make tremendous amounts of return, 10, 20x on your money,
okay,
but it can also dive way below the mean just as quickly and easily, right? So we don't have the history in Bitcoin to say it's a stable investment, right? Like at any time it could go to zero. I mean, that's the reality, right? Right now it's catching a good bid. There's a lot of we call them whales, big money people coming into the space. The other problem I have with Bitcoin is, what is the true price discovery mechanism of Bitcoin? You should be able to tell me, all right, there's 20 million Bitcoins. That's all there'll ever be, right? So when we hit this amount, it should be worth this much by market cap and so forth and so on. No one has ever expressed what is the price discovery mechanism of Bitcoin. How do you derive its value, right?
Sure.
I've never, and I do a little bit of digging. Bitcoin is not my specialty, nor any kind of cryptocurrencies, but up till now, I just haven't been able to find a price discovery mechanism that anyone's expressed that makes any sense. It's this pie in the sky number, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we could start really when Bitcoin. Let's start it when it was 3,000 and everyone really started paying attention to it, right?
Okay.
It had this meteoric rise right up to 20K, and the smart people took some profits there, right? A lot of people stayed in, and it went all the way back down to like 3,500 eventually, right? So now it's gone up to 50,000, 60,000. You know, the big discussion is, where is it going to go from here? We don't know. Could it go all the way back down to 20 almost, overnight? Sure, it could. That's the volatility we talked about earlier. Mining stocks can also do the same thing. That's why I equate those two to each other. Gold and silver, for that matter, are much more stable, right? When you look at the mean of say gold, it reverts to the mean in a lesser frequency than these speculative investments, and that's why I consider mining stocks. Gold is more of a lifeboat, right? It's a backbone to your investment strategy. Whereas Bitcoin and mining stocks, in my opinion, because they're so volatile, are what I call speculative investments. You can make a ton of money if you know how to get in and out of them, okay, but you better know that. Whereas gold, you can invest and wait long term, especially if it's the right cycle.
Okay.
And do very well without as much risk.
Are you just as sure today about the risks or the limited amount of risks in gold that you were 5 years ago?
Well, that's a whole nother show. All these markets are completely manipulated at this point. That, unfortunately, you know what I mean? There's algorithms that run, and we do believe that the metals have to adhere to a certain pattern, but within that pattern, which is a wide variety, they can place it almost wherever they want. They do that by shorting the market. We call them naked shorts, derivatives. Basically, they come in and they just make up short positions with money that doesn't exist.
Okay.
And by selling short, say silver, it plummets the price drastically. So all these big bullion banks are famously short right now because they've been keeping the market suppressed with these short positions. At some point, they're going to have to cover those shorts, which should skyrocket the price quite a lot higher to where it should have been anyway.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
All right.
It's artificially low because of the naked shorts is my point.
Okay.
And at some point, and it feels like it's coming soon, they're going to have to cover those shorts, which should obviously, by amplitude, shoot it much higher.
So you would still recommend then, and again, I'm just saying for if I'm thinking about it, just from what I've learned from you or just a layman's thinking, is that if I'm looking at the future and I'm trying to, again, invest in my future, then I do want to invest in gold still as much as I can. Am I allowed to? Is there anything that is preventing me from investing in as much gold as I want right now?
No, there's really nothing. I mean, shortages in silver are starting to pop up.
Okay.
Like there's big problems with the Perth Mint where regular people can't even buy silver from the Perth Mint. There seems to be that's a whole nother show in itself as well.
Yeah.
All the mints are ceasing production, like the Silver Libertad in Mexico. They've ceased production of that. The U.S. Mint has canceled orders on retail buyers because they just don't have the product. I would assume. I'm making that assumption.
Okay.
And at the same time, Perth Mint is I could go on for an hour about the myriad of things going on down there. They're not allowing people to go from unallocated to allocated accounts and so forth and so on.
Okay.
But in the silver market, there seems to be definitely some things going on there. No doubt about it that are unexplainable, or they are, but they're not going to explain them. But I'm sorry, what was the original question?
No, I mean, that was basically it. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about was the regulation in Bitcoin, because it's not regulated, correct?
Right. Well, getting back, I think what you originally asked was, is it a good time to get into Bitcoin?
True. Yeah.
And nobody knows for sure. Anyone who tells you they know for sure, like Michael Saylor or whatever, I don't know. But here's what you got to just ask yourself this question, okay? They're throwing out two numbers: 100,000 Bitcoin in the nearer term, 100,000 Bitcoin and 150,000 Bitcoin. Okay, so for Bitcoin at 60,000 to go to 100,000, let's call it 50, is a 2x move, right? To go to 150,000 is a 3x move. You got to ask yourself: do you feel that 3x move to go to 150K, which seems like a stretch, but maybe not? is more probable than, say, silver going to 75. So these are the things you got to weigh out for yourself. No one can tell you. My personal feeling, I am not anti-Bitcoin. I'm an avid precious metals guy, and I advocate them. But I'm not anti-Bitcoin. I just don't know enough. It doesn't have the history that gold or silver have.
I was just about to say that. Yeah.
For me to feel real comfortable. Is it a good speculative play? I feel like it is right now. I feel comfortable as a spec play short term, but you better be able to jump in there when you need to and get out before there's an expression, trying to catch a falling knife. You don't want to do that.
No. Okay.
So I personally feel that silver will go to $75 sooner than Bitcoin will go to 150,000. You know what I mean? Okay. So forget the numbers. Look at the return on your investment, right? Okay. Just in logarithmic terms. What percentage am I getting back on my money? Don't get all mesmerized by $100,000, versus $50. Sure. And so, right, that's a bad comparison. It's how much you invest and how much you're getting back on that investment is the proper way to look at it.
And I know we had talked also about in the future, we want to do something relating to the sportsbook industry, because sportsbooks now they are just pushing Bitcoin as their remedy of this is an easier way for you to move your funds in and out of your account. And it's interesting. I don't know why. And I haven't even asked you this. Usually we have these conversations, and I know we talked about the problem I was having in depositing my recent Bitcoin transactions into my sportsbook accounts because the fees were outrageous. So, for instance, I'll throw in like $50 at a time. I mean, I'm not like some wild gambler. I'll throw $50 at a time every few weeks or a month. And okay, maybe I've incurred $8 in total in the fees. By the time it's in my account, I got about $8 in fees. Recently, it was up to like almost $20, $15 to $20, which was amazing. I was like, I can't do this. I'm not gonna get $33 in my account when I started with $50. So what happened was the sportsbook I was using said we have another option, Litecoin. And I was like, well, what's Litecoin? I never heard of Litecoin. I did a little research, and I was like, okay, well, I'll try Litecoin. It can't be any worse than Bitcoin's fees. So I went ahead and deposited through Litecoin. First of all, I used a different exchange, which I was happy to, because I looked at the exchange, and this is also important when you're looking at it. I didn't realize one of the exchanges I was using was like ranked 187 out of 200. Another exchange that I started to use was like in the top 30. And then I was like, all right, well, maybe that's just one website's ranking. So I went ahead and used it. Instead of me waiting 20 minutes, it went through instantaneously, and my fees were like $2. So I was able to deposit my money in my sportsbook account using Litecoin with a much better exchange, where I was at $2 in fees. I mean, I'm like, why is that? Why would Litecoin, using Litecoin versus Bitcoin, be that much different?
Well, I covered that when you were down here. So people look at Bitcoin like gold, as Litecoin is to silver, so to speak.
Okay.
But basically what's happened here is Bitcoin is not a good currency, to use as a currency, because it can be very inefficient. It has to solve a number of mathematical equations before it even can release those funds to the other side. Okay. So it's a speculative play. I can't, in my opinion, you got to look at this as a spec play to make money on. But all these other platforms, we call them altcoins. Litecoin is one of them. Started saying, hey, we need more efficient means of actually exchanging goods and services with cryptocurrencies, right? Bitcoin is not going to be that. We know that for sure. So that was the reason for Ethereum and Litecoin was to, and I'll tell you what, a lot of big businesses are already on board with Litecoin to become almost like the new MasterCard, Visa type thing. You know what I mean? They're already signed up. It hasn't been implemented yet, but that's going to be the new way to move funds around in exchange for goods and services, right?
Interesting. Okay.
So that's why it was much more efficient, quicker, and cheaper, right? Bitcoin was never going to be that, despite some of the early guys saying, oh yeah, it's the great new, way to buy goods and services. It's not and never will be. there's another one called Hedera Hashgraph, or just Hashgraph, which is even quicker. And I'll tell you, my favorite probably right now, and again, I'm not a big cryptocurrency guy. I don't put a lot of time into it. But Theta, I expect to do big things. I mean, should be both a good spec play, but I mean, they're calling it the new Internet 3.0, right? So as we need more increased need for bandwidth, Theta is supposedly going to be the place we have to go to accumulate this system that works on a much greater scale. If that's true, and I do see companies like Sony, I think it's Samsung, big companies starting to make deals with Theta. So that tells me perhaps that's true.
Okay. Keep an eye
but
on that.
they expect Theta. And I mean, that's a huge return on your investment if you get in now. So these new platforms are being built to address the inefficiency of what Bitcoin was in terms of exchanging for goods and services.
Okay. Before we move on, I noticed something in the news also regarding there was a raid in New Hampshire. What was that about? Because they raided. So I noticed that there was a store, like a mom and pop store. And the person apparently who owned the store was like oblivious to what was going on, because he just allowed the person set up next to, I guess, the ATM machine, a Bitcoin machine. But apparently there was some tomfoolery going on with the Bitcoin machine. And I couldn't really understand exactly what was going on there.
Well, this is the biggest concern with the cryptos, right? Because recently you had Janet Yellen, you had Christine Lagarde from now the ECB, formerly IMF, and our good friend Powell, head of the Fed, all came out recently, and they're kind of ramping up the rhetoric for some restrictions or controls on cryptocurrencies, right? Because it's starting, with all the chatter and investment, it may compete with the dollar, which they will never allow, right? So that started ramping up a couple months ago, and it caused concern. Now we're actually starting to see, I guess goon squads going out maybe. And I don't know the whole story, Greg, so yeah. I don't want to comment on it. But they claim there was nefarious activity. This was in the Keene, New Hampshire case. But there's been others as well. So they're starting to slowly clamp down. And I think they're testing out to see how it'll be received, right? But in each case, they claim nefarious activity. So, I don't want to say that isn't true because I don't know. So there may very well have been. I don't know.
And how is that used, by the way? So I know what an ATM machine is. On an ATM, you got it's hooked up to your bank account. You need to get money. There you go. What is a Bitcoin machine for?
ATM machine.
Yeah.
So basically, the early adopters, back when Mt. Gox was around, they used to use like a lot of what they call a paper wallet. So if you go to a Bitcoin ATM, you put your money in, right? Your credit card, whatever. And it gives you just a printout of I guess basically your keywords. Okay. So it's essentially what you'd have with a paper wallet. So you have an actual physical. Now you take that and you go home. You can put it on your wallet, your wallet on your phone. If you have a ledger or one of these cold storage devices, you can go ahead and transfer into there, which I highly recommend if you're going to do this, that you get it into a safe, secure. The ledger, I forget what the other popular one is, but I would do that personally.
Okay.
And then you have it basically in what looks like a little hard drive, right? It's there all the time. But I'll tell you, recently there's been 5 or 6 cases of people losing hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin because they lost or forgot their keywords or their passwords. I just saw a video this morning. It was about 5 cases he brought up where one guy offered like a $10 million reward if the landfill or someone could find his disposed of device or cold storage device with $750 million worth of Bitcoin on it. Like, you better take it seriously when it comes to storing and protecting your digital currency. Because people, why this doesn't make the media, I don't know, but there's a lot of that going on. Way back in the day, Mt. Gox, which was the first exchange to get Bitcoin, they were taking money to get the Bitcoin, but they weren't doing it. So at the very end, before they went under, all these people had paid for Bitcoin and never got it. So it's not the most regulated thing in the world, that's for sure, if at all. So
You think it will be regulated?
I kind of what we talked about earlier. I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
As it becomes somewhat of a currency or it becomes used like that, absolutely. They'll say you can use it, but you're going to use it under our. I'm thinking maybe you might have to exchange that, which will happen in milliseconds, into the new CBDC of that country, which is a central bank digital currency.
Okay.
I think it's like, hey, yeah, use it all you want, but you're going to have to go back into our system to purchase goods and services with it, with our CBDC, whatever that's called in your country. And they'll be fine with that because then it just has to be changed back into their money.
Okay.
Before you can use it, which defeats the whole purpose. Everyone loves it because they say you're becoming your own central bank. You know what I mean? This and that. I don't feel that that's going to end up being the case. I don't know. Nobody knows. Everyone's talking about it. Nobody has any actual concrete answers because they haven't said anything yet on that.
Yeah, it's still, like you said, when did it become, what, 2007 you said? That's when it first became?
No, when it first spiked up was like like 2015, I think was the first.
Okay.
So yeah, that's when people really started paying attention to it.
So it was 6 years old. Yeah, it's nothing.
Yeah, it stayed very low. I mean, it had a couple small spikes before that, but nothing that made people rush into it, right? Your barber wasn't talking about Bitcoin up until that first good spike.
Yeah.
And then, of course, everyone wants to get in there. So between the potential regulation and a few other issues, I just don't know enough about it yet. I'm not comfortable with it yet for it to take the place of a gold or a silver or precious metal. But I do think it has a home. I'm not anti-Bitcoin or cryptocurrency whatsoever. I think it's a great spec play if you want to really make some money fast.
Yep.
And remember, Greg, it all depends on your position, right? If you're a single guy with a chunk of change and you're younger, I would be more aggressive with that investment money, right?
Okay.
Where I'm sitting, it doesn't make sense for me to take too many risks. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So it just all depends on your situation. You can't answer. Everyone always asks, what should my portfolio look like? No one can answer that, right? It all depends. There's so many variables that you have to go through to pick the right portfolio for that person, right? Depends on the risk tolerance factor is what I'm trying to get at.
And if you're trying to find out, if you're somebody that does want to know more about how to invest, or should I invest in Bitcoin, what's the difference in how you would recommend that person to, all right, these are the types of people that you need to speak to compared to just the general investor or anybody that would just be, or before Bitcoin, okay, I'm going to go speak to so forth about my investments and what I need to do to invest in the future, whether it's a stockbroker or whatever the case may be. Is that the same thing? Do you still just go and find stockbroker Joe and, okay, he's got a good reputation. It seems like he's got good clients. They belong to a really big firm. What would you recommend? Like you said, you're not going to be the one that is going to tell them, but would you at least recommend somebody?
Well, I'll tell you the same thing every other guy who knows what he's talking about is going to tell you. Start, first of all, become knowledgeable about what you're going to do. Don't just turn it over to anybody. That's the biggest mistake you can ever make, right? Take the time, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, study yourself, know how it works. You still may decide to work with a financial advisor. That's fine. But you better know the inner workings yourself. I mean, I'll give you a couple examples of, I won't even say the name, a huge investment bank, right? Years ago, they got caught advising their clients to take a position in a trade that they were taking the other side, the short side of the trade.
Okay.
So they were actually taking the other side of the trade of what they were telling their investors to do with their money, which should be illegal. I mean it is. They got caught. They got a slap on the wrist. I mean, to these guys, being fined $200 million is the cost of doing business because they made so much more, right? By moving the markets the way they want with even just their investors, if they're big enough. So my personal feeling is you can learn everything they know just about yourself with this information age, right? It's all available to us, which is what I would like to see people do, what I would do myself. I want to know what I'm investing in. Even if I have somebody else, actually do that for me, that's fine. but I want to be able to watch it and understand what he or she is doing. That's first thing. Know it yourself. Secondly, it's not that hard to find good people. Look at their track record. You know what I mean? I like these independent guys. I'll throw a name out there, Michael Pinto from Pinto Portfolio Strategies. I think he's a good, honest guy. He's got a good record. People that use him are happy. So, take the time also to get the references. You know what I mean? Find out about these people.
And the channels at your disposal of reputable people that you can check out, you can comment on, you can ask questions. Right. That's a great way. That's why having a really good YouTube channel is important nowadays to people who don't know. There are a lot of people who don't know, because I can see a lot of people going, oh yeah, but I'm not an expert. And even if I put in the time, I'm still not an expert. I don't know how much I could really know. I don't know if I can do that. And then call an advisor and say, okay, or a broker and say, okay, do this. I'm going to have to still trust somebody, but that's the way to do it, because you've got not unlimited, but there's more than enough really good people, even just on YouTube, with good channels that you can turn to. And then the general public that follow those people on those channels will also be very important, because they can give you great feedback.
Right. So I think if you just have a general idea of how it's supposed to work and you can monitor the person handling your money, that's great. As far as watching the charts, the 200-day, 50-day moving averages and getting in and out of trades, I would pay someone to do that personally. I mean, I do. So that's the difference, right? Yeah. There's trading and there's investing. So, if you just want to invest and get a lower but safer percentage of money back, yeah, you can find a guy easily just by doing a little bit of homework that you feel comfortable with, right?
Okay.
Trading's a little more aggressive. It can pay off better, but everyone's into swing trading now. And then you got these Robinhood kids that are just handling their own affairs, right, based on charts. So there's all kinds of avenues. But if you're educated, you'll choose the right one that, again, fits your risk tolerance. Yeah. That's the important thing. You could be gambling here. These markets are manipulated. So, it's your money. You worked hard for it. I recommend a nice portfolio. I'm not making a recommendation, but a nice diverse portfolio with some more aggressive speculative investments is good. But for me personally, I like a safer, more tolerant route that isn't as volatile.
And either way, it can't be a get rich quick kind of thing.
Right.
Sorry, but if you do it that way, you're just taking all the chances in the world. And if you've got the money to take chances, then okay. If you want to do it that way, we're not advising that. I wouldn't even advise that, but it's not about okay, I'm going to put money on Bitcoin and I'm going to sit there and hope that in a couple of months it gets to a certain level where I could just, I can make a quick 5,000. I can make a quick 10,000. It just doesn't work that way. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. And that's where the volatility comes in.
And that's where the education comes in. Like, for instance, if you knew about Bitcoin and you had done the homework and you felt that it was going to do what it actually just did, and you got in at under $1 or $5,
yeah,
you're a multimillionaire with a week's paycheck. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel Theta has the potential to be like that. So when you're educated, what's risking $300-400 or whatever, say $500, right? When if you really feel, you do the homework and you feel like that crypto is going to go to the moon, and they do go to the moon sometimes, throw $500, get 1,000 of them, get 1,000 coins. I'll throw one out there that looks interesting to me that just popped up, Pirate Chain.
Okay.
It's supposedly the most private one of them all. So if you look into that a little bit, again, not investment advice, but that could potentially pay big over the long run. Maybe not as big as Bitcoin, but again, you throw $500 in there, you might make a few $100,000 over the next 3 years. Who knows? Yeah. But it has that kind of potential. And then you never know. But listen, in a lot of these cases, even if it doesn't go to the moon, even if you make 10 times your money, you made 10 times your money. I'll guarantee you this: you leave it sitting in the bank account as they debase the currency with all this stimulus and QE, you're losing money. That's the guarantee. That's what you don't want to happen. You'd be better off, put it in just about anything. You know what I mean? But if you want to take that $500, say you got $1,500, you want to take 500 out and get in one of these that you can sit on, that would be the way to go, because I really do feel like a couple of those cryptos in particular are going to go up. And I also feel we're heading into the beginning of a commodities super cycle, a bull cycle. Okay. So I do think silver, when it comes out of this correction, is going to go on a nice strong run.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things going on. You just got to shift your. A lot of people have been so wrapped up in the stock market lately, right? And cryptos, but there's some other things that should be about to really take off as well. And that's where you want to catch things at the bottom. They were laughing about it the other day, like with silver. When silver's $15, no one wants to even talk about it. They don't want to acknowledge it even exists, right? When it's $25, they start talking about it. When it's $35, they say it's undervalued. It should be. They start talking about how it should be worth $100. So, what other asset do you know, or what other anything do you know when it's on sale, like when it's $15? People don't want to talk about. That's usually when you want to buy it, right? It's the reverse psychology for some reason in silver.
Interesting.
When it's a good buy, nobody wants to talk about it. When it's less of a good buy, but still a good buy, now all of a sudden, they ignore that whole good sale part of it for whatever reason. It perplexes people.
All right.
People in the space.
Well, I tell you what, we've definitely dived down gold versus Bitcoin on this report, and we've got so many more.
I do want to say just two things in closing, right? So look for the Frank Giustra, who's he's a multi-billionaire, big gold advocate, right?
Okay.
Wants to debate Michael Saylor, who's like the premier Bitcoin guy right now. So he's been calling him out. If you guys are interested in this whole topic, just keep an eye out. There's even a hashtag about it. And I think Michael Saylor is finally going to accept that challenge. So that if you want the best information on gold versus Bitcoin, that debate will be where it's uncovered. Because those are two guys that, have proven they know what they're talking about. Also, one last thing is I hear Coinbase is about to IPO. So if you like cryptocurrencies and you think, the future is all about cryptocurrencies, investing perhaps, and again, not financial advice, in Coinbase as a public company might be a better idea for you. Why? Because it just likes volume or volatility, right? You make money when people are buying Bitcoin, and we talked about how volatile cryptos are, right? Yeah. So you're making money when everyone's buying Bitcoin, right? Exchanges are doing great, but also when people are selling, all these exchanges are also doing great.
That's true.
So investing in an exchange might be the smartest way to do it. Almost like investing in a royalty company for gold and silver is good. So I just want to throw that out there. All great ideas.
That makes sense.
Hasn't happened yet. Yeah, you can buy it right out of the gate when it's not too expensive. So I'm looking hard at that option myself.
Well, before I wrap it up, though, I just wanted to also, I know we covered on the last show about the Suez Canal, because when we did that intro, actually it was one of our shows, and one of our shows we talked about the Suez Canal and the semiconductor shortages, and that was at the time, I believe it was in the 6th day of being stuck, that shipment on the Suez Canal. That obviously is now free, but because we're already seeing issues already, right? As far as, because you told me that you went to the store the other day looking for a computer, and they were telling you, nope, this is out, that's out. I haven't been able to get this stock in yet, and I'm seeing that as well. So, is this the beginning of the shortages? Is it going to get worse?
I think so. I mean, listen, especially the semiconductor shortage is a big problem. Like, I know a lot of big auto plants are shutting down because of it. It's a compounded effect. It's the semiconductor shortage, and also there's a plastics shortage, all petrochemicals, because I guess that storm in Texas, where most of those plants are, was highly affected. So you got all these automakers. I mean, our GDP is going to, to answer your question, I think the global supply chain was definitely hit pretty hard over the last 2 months, and how it works. And I think there'll be a lingering effect from that. I don't think it's just an overnight correction for that. You know what I mean?
So that means that if you're somebody who is having a hard time, and again, you could be in any business at all, and you're used to ordering certain parts, or, hey, I have to make sure that, like, for instance, and I know this has probably nothing to do with what we're talking about. But I had, as you know, I had an issue with my bandwidth, my computer the last 24 hours, and I was talking to the to the gentleman that came by to fix everything, and I was asking him about, well, could it be my router? Okay. And he was saying, yeah, if you want, you should go out and buy this router, that router. And the first thing I was thinking about when he was saying I should go out and buy something was, well, I wonder if it's available. And I was thinking to
Yeah.
myself, these are the things that become super important, because if you have even just a small business like I have, and you have equipment and something goes down and you just figure, okay, I'm just going to replace it. What if they're not available? So that just tells you it's probably a good idea to stock up and get, you know what, if I have to invest a few $100s in certain technology that I need to run my business, $30 part, $40 this, $50 that. Now is the, like, for instance, I have lights for lighting up my room for the show. So, but I have excess light bulbs. But that's the idea. If I need light bulbs, and I'm not saying light bulb will have a shortage, I'm just using that as an example. Well, I should go out then and get light bulbs. Make sure I've got 10 of them just in case, because if they go out and I don't have any lights, and all of a sudden I go to order them and they said, oh, they're out, I probably won't get them for another 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I think that's a good idea for people to kind of keep in their mind, that you may think I've just got to call up and it'll be available. Just don't think like that, because it may not be available.
No, it's an excellent point. Like you said, it crossed my mind the other day. I went out to get a new computer. There was no computers in Walmart or Best Buy, like any of the local places. No TVs. I looked over. They were wiped out of TVs. Guys like, yeah, it's crazy. So you bring up a good point. If it's something that you absolutely need, you're right. Invest in it now. Why? Because spending $200 now might save you thousands of dollars in lost revenue by not having that if it's an essential part of your business, right?
Yeah.
So it makes all the sense in the world. If you have the money and it's an integral part of your business, go ahead and get it now, because you're right. Not just electronics, but they predict that there's going to be a massive food shortage here pretty soon. So stock up on some food and water. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous, but
oh no,
look,
you know how I am with. I like to have my little zone perfect nutrition bars. It's like a perfect meal for me. And I've gone out to to all the stores in the area that sell it when I was getting low. And I usually will just go to the store, I pick up a box of 12, whatever. They're out. They were out for 2 weeks. So I had you know what, let me call and order it. And I was able to order it from Amazon, I think, or Walmart. So I ordered like 4 weeks worth at Walmart. I was running low again. I called Walmart. I get to Walmart to try to order it again. They don't have it.
Yeah.
So I had to go to Target and get 20 boxes of 5 in each box to order it to get here within 3 or 4 days. So I'm already saying, look, this is a meal I like. This is something that prevents me from having, crappy chocolate. It's a nice little substitute meal when I'm busy. And it's almost like an addiction. It's like I have to have it. And I've realized, you know what? I have to order as many as I can of these to make sure that I'm maybe 2, 3, 4 months protected in case now, like you said, a food shortage on top of that. So I would highly recommend people to order as many. Everybody has got like a Sam's Club kind of thing. You could stock up. I would advise definitely stock up, whether you go to a Sam's Club or order online.
Right, absolutely. I mean, if it's a necessity that you're going to use anyway. I mean, I used to have this. It's kind of funny. Like when I was in high school, I had a buddy, and he was cheap, and he always used to put like $5 of gas in his car. We run out of gas all the time because I'm like, you're going to use the gas anyway to get from A to B to C, right? Like, fill the tank up. Yeah, you have the money in his pocket. But my point is, if it's something you're going to use anyway, pre-buy it, and that way you won't get caught with your pants down, so to speak. You know what I mean? It just makes all the sense in the world. And the analogy you made with the example with the business.
Yeah.
If it's something you need, it's essential for running your business. And if you don't have it, you'll lose tens of thousands of dollars in revenue,
Yeah.
but you can get it. Be proactive. It's a day and age where you got to be more proactive than reactive, because reactive is going to cost you. That's true with your health, with your business needs, your food. If you need it, get it ahead of time.
Yeah, and lastly, that was one of the things that happened to me. Was I went to Walmart because I had to pick up the extra webcam for us to use on our show, and I went to Walmart. I figured I'm all right. I'm gonna go to Walmart. I'm gonna pick up a webcam. I didn't think at all was I gonna go there and they were gonna say we're out. I just figured, okay, just give me. I don't care which one you have, and they go, no, they're all out. You're out of webcams. $20, $30, $40 webcam. I just need something. I just need a camera. You don't have a webcam? No webcams. So, and then when I went to Target to get it, it was the last one. Last one.
Yeah.
A webcam, a $30 webcam.
Yep.
And if I couldn't have picked that up, we couldn't have done the show. That's how valuable the webcam was. We could have done the show, but we wouldn't have been able to do the show the way we wanted to do the show. That's how valuable something as simple as a $30 webcam lost would have been to our business.
So, I mean, that's just a few good examples of what I call the toilet paper effect. It's like, you got to use the toilet paper guy. I'm just kidding. But basically,
shortage.
We're seeing shortages in things that we use every day, necessary things more and more as time goes on instead of less and less. You would think the further away from the crisis that we get, things would be getting better. They're not. They're actually getting worse. And then things like the Suez Canal and other factors like that, weather don't help.
No.
That's for sure. So, it's up to you. Listen, it's we're all adults here. It's up to you to either take precautions and be proactive or not. But, if consequences arise, don't get upset if you didn't take action.
Yeah.
That's on you.
And you've had your warning.
A choice, live by it. Yeah.
And I'm not saying us. You should have had your warning without even watching this channel to know what's going on, and you got to take care of yourself. Don't get lost in your phone.
Like I said, I mean, that may not materialize or continue to accelerate. Who knows? But I'm a better safe than sorry guy. You know what I mean? I'm not saying go crazy. Just be prudent so that your life doesn't get totally disrupted, short term or long term. That's all. Don't get crazy.
Yep. Steve, good show. You have any thoughts on what you want to talk about next week? I'll put you on the spot.
I always have a dozen or so thoughts. I don't want to try to pick one right now because I'll be perfectly honest with you. Things are happening at breakneck speed in the economy. So what I want to talk about today could change by Tuesday drastically, depending on how things unfold.
Understood.
Yeah, I think, I'm watching the oil market right now. We had that lightning strike destroy that refinery, like all these weird things going on there. So I have a feeling that'll be a topic for discussion as the week unfolds. We'll see.
Okay. All right, Steve, we'll talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good, Greg.